to get into game one. We don't have to worry about either of those. We head into Boldland for a good old classic Malian versus Mongol matchup. Let's see if coRe is going to be extending a hand of aggression to Baltune to kick off this Elimination Series.
This is a big one indeed here in Group A, coRe versus Baltune. And the winner is going to face off against killJardy tomorrow to see who gets into the playoffs. And, you know, you gotta start looking at these players, and especially Baltune here, just to kick this series off with. As a player that goes into the series being the favorite, Baltune took 2 games off of Marine Lord, which is nothing short of spectacular. So if you're coRe, you're looking to upset a player that has definitely been hot very recently.
Yeah, and this is an interesting way to start. So you're expecting an outpost rush. It's just given. It's the only reason you really want to pick Mongols on this map. Baltune, instead of going for, say, like an outpost, which is one way of addressing this, he's going to go for the racks. So this can be risky against Malians, because if Mongols just keep vomiting spears, you do eventually tend to lose out. You have to win the initial micro battle, because the issue you run into is, like, Donzos are absurdly expensive on wood.
Yeah, the problem that you're running into when it comes to this kind of a spearman war is that you only have the edge as Mongols until you're double producing your spearmen, so you're getting essentially 2 spearmen for the price of 1.
Yeah, so like it's the efficiency there for sure. But the other interesting thing is, like, usually a Mongol player doesn't have the wood conversion issue, in that he will always have access to the big tree line, either because the TC's there or because of his Gur being there, right? Whereas for like Baltune, he'll lose his pacing on scaling spears, and you can't afford to because of the double production you just mentioned. So initial skirmish comes in. You need to be careful, because the whole goal here is you need to keep pressuring very aggressively. Otherwise, the hybrid damage will eventually win out for Baltune.
And Baltune is playing very, very defensive over here. He's going to have to protect that pit mine, that is for sure, especially because, I mean, he's got an alternative all the way to the north, but it's quite a walk away, so he probably wants to just retain this position.
Yeah, I mean, this is the tricky thing why the Mongol outpost rush feels pretty good, right? I mean, you start spears, and then you can just basically follow up outpost if there's a close enough tree line. Admittedly, this spawn isn't good for an outpost rush. You can see Baltune's tree lines are nowhere near the gold. But yeah, he's just going to calm down. Wants to make sure when he goes in, he's got enough to win the fight.
coRe is committing a lot to this. He went to 8 spearmen with double production. He had 2 more in queue. He's going to be up to 10 spears here.
Oh, you can keep going. Like I've seen 23 plus spears in this matchup. I'm not even memeing.
I don't want to see 23 spears, but yeah, this is. I don't know if this is not going to work out in the long run for coRe, I feel.
Oh boy.
Especially because, keep in mind, Baltune has an easier time reinforcing this battle. He doesn't have to walk across the map.
Well, you say that. Look at how bad Baltune's economy looks right now. Got too much gold. This is problematic. And the outpost rush is coming in. So this is the thing. It now forces you to fight instead of losing the variant attacks. He could try to snipe one of the villagers. Khan is going to go down, but he already used the maneuver speed arrow. So not that big of a deal. Spear mosh pit is going to begin. But the choke point is perfect. Remember, his goal isn't to just beat the Donzos. It's to get the outpost up. And this achieves that goal.
Yeah, a really nice micro by coRe, by the way. Pulling back the injured spearman and
Villagers coming.
holding the ground, really.
Baltune, I think he might have the burn power here. He's going to rush it now. He needs to get on top of those villagers. Can he get run the back? Yes, he can. So Donzo's in position and stabbing. And the burn is coming through, so the outpost is already going to be down to, what, half HP at least here, surely?
Oh, but at the same time, you're sacrificing so much for this. Spearman garrison inside, a lot of
He
Donzos
switched
are
the
low
villagers. He actually switched the villagers in. They're still alive. Baltune hasn't finished them off.
coRe is delivering an awesome level of micro in this, I gotta say that. And this is the kind of play style that you need if you want to throw off someone that just took 2 games away from Marine Lord. coRe got 3-0'd by killJardy. Baltune, he almost killed Marine Lord in that series. He did lose one of the villagers as he was jumping outside of that tower. But just to get back to that point for a second, if you are able to throw off your opponent like this, those are the kinds of moves that you need to win a series if you're coRe.
Okay, but hear me out. This Dark Age has gone long enough that Baltune can now just go straight into Pro Scouts. Look at the gold.
I mean, If this continued for a couple more moments, he could have gone fast Imperial with the amount of gold he collected.
Manticore is still going to give him a little bit of runway there. He does have the back goal to work with. coRe is unlikely to follow this up with more pressure there straight away. So it's definitely a good start for coRe. I haven't really seen this matchup frequently since the Pro Scouts meta took over. Before, sure, crap tons that would come out, usually on places like Dry Arabia, and the goal was, as Mongol, let's build between 10 to 25 spears. And the whole logic there is, like, eventually, Malians just have to give up on the plan. But I'm curious how coRe wants to approach this. On a map like Borderland, you are inherently drawn towards Pro Scouts. Mongols have looked kind of sad trying to do Pro Scouts recently.
Some counterattack coming in here from Baltune. It doesn't really have much, but these Donzos are here to harass. Some of them are low HP though, so it's not going to be an easy fight. coRe Spearmen are still chilling around the enemy base though, so that pit mine is still being contested.
Yeah, you could have actually spanned more Donzos to ramp this up, right? Like, it's interesting because the melee armor on the Donzos makes them quite tanky against villagers, right? You basically take away 20% of the DPS. But yeah, he's just going to idle the goal a little bit. Won't be able to hang there too long. Pickups coming from both sides. See what the opening play is going to be. For coRe, yes, there's already Donzo. I don't think you go Keshix. He is indeed going to be going Pro Scouts.
This is such a Pro Scout heavy meta that we're seeing over here. It takes you back to the good old days. And Baltune actually canceled that last house, or, well, I should say deleted it, to prevent coRe from getting the bounty. But at the same time, with that final house being lost, it also means that he's actually housed right now. He needs to rebuild these all the way at the back. And so far, coRe has been dictating the tempo of the game. So if you want to play Pro Scouts, that's exactly the position that you want to be in. You're setting the tempo of the game, and now you're going out and collecting all those deer carcasses.
The interesting part to me is that the guy that should be Pro Scouting here isn't. No, we've got just Baltune trying to pump an army together. This is old school Malian build, right? Donzo Mass Javelin. I mean, we do have stables now. He definitely still has the resources to go Pro Scouts, but you'd think he would have queued it by now. There we go. So very delayed timing here, yeah. I mean, I guess you could argue he needed troops because, he's gone for the second pit mine as far away. There's spears in the neighborhood. There's also the idea, like, Donzos can be decent at sniping scouts. Because you have to remember that the whole Javelin does get the bonus against Cav.
It actually makes Donzos a very dangerous anti-Cav unit because you don't even need to have that, gap. Well, you don't need to gap close with your Donzos. All you got to do is just get sufficiently close enough and you can chip away with some level of damage on the enemy cavalry. But speaking of Pro Scouts, looks like Baltune himself is now opting to go for Pro Scouts here. He's going to be a little delayed compared to coRe, though.
Yeah, but the Warrior Scouts can be really good on the aggression here, right? Like, quite a chunky front line, especially against archer play. So you can use them to poke at least. Meanwhile, for coRe, he doesn't have that mobility, right? It's your static troops. Khan's going to go down. We've got walls coming in quite early from Baltune. A little bit surprised by this. It's quite an expensive thing to do pre-10 minutes. I think he just wants to create that funnel point so there's no sneaky Keshik follow-up play.
I just love how these scouts are carrying the carcasses but also fighting back over here. Archers are now moving in. Baltune is slowly mixing in javelin throwers, but you get the feel that he's a little delayed on everything over here. He's just now getting the Pro Scouts in. Jav throwers are just now coming in as well. Whereas when you look at coRe, he already has he's got 9 archers on the field. He is getting some more on the field as well. There is still a tower in front of the enemy base, and he's also the first one to carrying carcasses. But at the same time, coRe is completely out of food. So it looks like something was like grossly off when it comes to the food influx, because he has absolutely no one on food right now.
Yeah, a little bit odd on the timing. I mean, realistically, when you use the Khan like this, you're not gathering sheep, right? So there might have been a gap there, waiting for the Pro Scouts to return home. I mean, Baltune's ended up on berries because of weird things that are happening in this game. So it looks like the Pro Scout is going to have to just navigate the weird waters for him there. Stealth Forest makes it awkward, right? Like, these archers, yeah, it's open terrain, they see you, but otherwise they're completely blind, which is why coRe's getting a bit funky with the split. We do have a few Khan hunters coming through. Like, I don't mind the idea of just getting a small group of Magadai against certain opponents. I don't think Marlian is the one to ever do it against, though, right? Because like the javelins just completely tear you asunder.
Yeah, I don't think you can hard commit into archers here in the long run. Donzo Javelin is just such a difficult composition to defeat, and that's something that we've been seeing over and over again.
So I'm trying to figure out what coRe's win condition is in his mind. Like, usually, it used to be against Malians, you would look for a castle transition after the pressure. And then, like, quality Keshiks can kind of win out before Sofa play comes in with fast castle Baltune Malians, right? But this is now turning into a really long feudal. And we've seen what long feudals do, right? For Malians and mass javelins and Donzos, you're kind of just pumping the best infantry comp you can imagine for the age.
Yeah, the thing is that they like being in feudal age. The longer you are in feudal age, the more time you have to build up your cattle ranches. And I think that's going to be a big factor here. Now, all the javelins were pulled away to the left side, and the archers are now moving in, looking for some villagers to pick off, and they do find at least one. Still, a couple more javelins, plus the Donzos will discourage any further attempts from coRe. But you get the feel that coRe is on a bit of a timer here, just trying to get some eco damage done before this very compact, cow-heavy and bit-mine-heavy economy of the Malians really starts rolling.
Yeah, the idea makes sense for coRe. The reality of Borderland is most tree lines aren't safe. Right? Like, if you actually check the TC range, you'll see what I mean. Like, there's not really that layer of safety like Dry Arabia where your primary tree line is close enough that it can't be dove. And with the tree lines being as small as the ones on Himiyama, it's very easy to see into them as well. So that's why you're seeing coRe just take this very relentless pressure type approach. 21 archers does look scary. I mean, Baltune, with only 10 javelins, he really needs to take a poke approach to this. It's just a little bit risky while he's still being greedy, right? There's a risk that coRe looks and says, well, that army's not scary, and then just rushes in entirely.
Yeah. coRe does have quite a bit of a mobility boost, and that's going to help a lot here, finding a couple more villagers out there as well. He's up to 5 villager kills already.
Make it 7. Yeah, this is getting a bit worrisome. Baltune has at least got, what, 3 ranches full, so it kind of pads him. But really unnecessary losses, and you see the difference these wall changes made, right? Like, those would have been mostly constructed. Maybe he would have been further, deeper already. So coRe's going to keep an opening. His goal now should be to have a secondary wave coming in the other direction. I believe we do actually have, yeah, some archers rotating on the east side as well.
That's exactly what he has to do. Baltune hasn't built up a force large enough, or as large as his is. So if he can stretch out the attention of Baltune over here and just start picking away at villagers, that's exactly the win condition that he needs. And behind this, coRe is also piling up resources for Castle Age here. A lot of villagers have to flee here for Baltune. He's down by quite a few, and this could get a lot worse here.
He can't catch him quick enough, so good timing there for Baltune to get out, especially considering he does not have wheelbarrow. He needs to keep running. So there's going to be at least 2 workers going down. The Donzo Javelin should be able to mop this up now, though. He needs to. It's up to 11 worker kill, which means there's going to be a ridiculous... What's that? It's late in the night. 9 villager lead right now. If he threads the needle now into castle, I think this is a relic rush waiting to happen. And Baltune's army is ill-equipped to block that.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Baltune, I'm not gonna lie. He lost quite a few workers. Sure, you have the passive resource income, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily compensate for all those losses, especially when you consider that Mongols actually get a lot of free units when you double produce. And now the Kurultai is coming in. More villagers are falling as they're building these walls. And once the Kurultai is in, it's a completely different setup for Baltune. He's stuck in feudal age, and suddenly your army is going to be a lot less competent against this Mongol force buffed by the Kurultai than it is right now.
Starting to feel like Baltune has died to walling because he tried to do it, right?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, you know, once again, it's a big detail. One of the biggest changes to Season 9. A lot of people focus on the siege. I think the walling is just as important. You know, old meta, maybe you lose like 5 villages, get these walls up. Now, this is getting unacceptable. Tech up complete. It's 18 worker kills so far. We're running a risk of coRe being ahead by 20 villagers. Baltune now needs to get up in age. The ranch is mostly full, but you can already see the archers and Keshiks are diving. He's like, where is it? Where is it? When you're building it? Mr. Baltune? Mr. Baltune? Where is it?
Now, coRe lost most of his archers, though. And this is actually pretty big here. Sure, it's not a good unit to build against javelin throwers. So you could just say, okay, they're almost obsolete. But now he's rolling up with a coRe, and he's got basically no troops to buff with it. That's a bit of a concern here if you're coRe. Sure, you did a lot of eco damage, but there is still quite some cattle with the Grand Fulani Corral. And your opponent does have a standing army, whereas you don't really do.
My worry is like Baltune isn't doing anything though, right? He's just staying here. He's a little bit hesitant to come out after that damage, but yes, you could argue Fulani equalizes the economy again because it's worth 20 villages. Still, like this was meant to be the moment where you could block a play. Like if you don't come out of that corner, as I said, coRe is going to vacuum relics and there'll be sacred sites. That type of eco lead is good enough at that stage that he will be ahead of Malians for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a switch up from Baltune's side as well. He's actually making a pivot into cavalry. At the same time, coRe getting some caching going, once again getting the archers out as well. He has a gigantic eco lead in terms of worker counts, some of that being offset by the cattle, of course. I think the big thing is going to be how this coRe gets leveraged, though. It's right in front of the enemy base, but coRe just doesn't have a huge standing army right now.
Yeah, it's what makes the coRe feel a bit weird, right? Like, when you see people fast castles Mongols and they go coRe, you just question everything. Like, if you've got 4 units, there's no point. If you have, say, 40 archers, whoa, mama, slow down. But now it means that Baltune gets a really big stay of execution here. He's going to be able to get all his techs up. He's got his veterancy already in for the javelins. Donzo's coming. Likely, we're going to be looking at sofas as well, right? Sofas really is the big chef's kiss moment. The reason why you're seeing Baltune not rush it is normally when you go for sofa, you have close to 60 villages at this point.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. That's the problem, right? And that actually throws off a lot of timings for Malians here. When the Malians get to Castle Age most of the time, with the cattle, with the passive gold income, and the healthy amount of villagers, they can make quick tech switches. You can see a quick buildup of sofas, or you can see a quick buildup of poison arrow archers. That's not really in the case here. It still allows Baltune to have quite some flexibility, but he's definitely going to be a little slower reacting in terms of compositions than Malians are, usually.
So coRe does have 3 monks outplaying. He should be able to get most of the relics here. Baltune is at least trying to mirror the play now. And we do have the first sofa getting queued up. It's going to be difficult to get a lot of sofa, though. coRe's eco is technically quite weak. 800 food is not that competitive. So you'll probably see him just leaning more and more archers for the time being. He's also extending out towards that central tree line. Now, one tricky part about Mongols is when this turns into a macro game, Bold Land requires defenses on those big tree lines, and he won't have a good defense. Keshiks are going to make him feel pretty good, though. He gets in, gets a bit more chip damage in, 2 more worker kills so far. Still more to be found on that back goal.
Yeah, army count is now neck and neck over here. This gold mine is still being contested, by the way. Let's not forget, Baltune is also mining gold here. So at some point, he's going to have to start moving towards the front of his base. Sofa is now getting imported armor. But it's only 1 Sofa on the field right now, so it's definitely an upgrade that's going to take some more time to really become relevant. Baltune needs time to build up those Sofas.
I mean, the core issue here is the archer count, right? Like, the javelin should be able to contest this. The interesting thing is coRe makes it a bit more competitive. You do still have a problem of range. And remember, he doesn't have a Khan Hunter anymore. So yeah, you're just seeing him just trying to skirt away from this. I'm not liking the look of this right now for a resident German player. He's just going to brute force it. The javelins, why are they this close? This is ridiculous. He's trying to make it hard for the archers to attack the Donzos. That's what's happening. And it's working. coRe just melts.
I think he just closed distance so that his opponent cannot get away. And over again with the Malians, one of the things that we see is that Donzo plus Javelin is just such an oppressive combination. The reality is that there isn't really a good counter to them.
No, it's like the longer you play Feudal, the better it gets for them, it feels like. And, you know, questions are going to be asked about this one. I mean, yes, we can talk about the power of Fulani. Great. Reality is it was still, what, an 18 worker lead at one stage. Now it's a total difference, 21 worker kills extra in favor of coRe. Yeah, we have him looking like he's on the ropes. The Kurultai gets pinched perfectly by the small group of cavalry.
No!
That's a huge loss for coRe.
That might just be the game. Because we talked about this, the compositions aren't ideal here for coRe. But the Kurultai can make up for a lot of that difference, that Kurultai buff, and if it's gone, you're looking at casual archers, some crossbows, some men-at-arms, and some Kashik trying to face off against Dunsos, Sofas with imported armor, javelin throwers. The composition is just not there for coRe right now.
No, and he's trying to go to mass Keshiks. Sofas can contest that relatively well, especially now with Musafadi assisting. Other thing is, if you think about the comp that Baltune's now building into, it's not just a comp that can win the main fight. It's fantastic raiders, right? Sofa, great movement speed, Musafadi with the stealth ambush. On a map where coRe is going to be exposed, because remember, you don't have these big safe resources. This could spell disaster for the Mongol picker.
And now,
That's a
talk
freebie.
about that eco lead that coRe had. It's going to be gone in an instant. Sofas finally find his villagers. And just look at what Baltune is doing now with the walls. He says, okay, this is a wide open map. You cannot wall, I can. So I'm just going to make sure that you will never get to my base again.
I'm going to wall for both of us. That's the positive angle we need to look for. We do, however, have a counter raid. Keshik's diving in on the gold. Like he maybe, what was that, one? Possibly two. I mean, he's going to bring it all home, right? So he's going to look to mop up this army. Once it's dead, it's going to be a march towards the enemy base. Because that's the thing. Remember, last time, a few Keshiks went in, quickly got mopped up. There's still a lot of javelins that can tickle away at these. Sofas, well, they aren't going to skip a beat. Paladin's like, sure, I need to address this. I'm up to 22 Sofa. Of course I'm going to raid. Dives underneath the TC.
It's just too much for coRe now.
I mean, he's not
The
even
problem
reacting
is
to
that he
this.
cannot wall, so now he's just playing catch up with all these Sofas running around him. And
coRe
this
doesn't
is
know. He hasn't even noticed that this is happening. This is like a disastrous way to die.
Oh man, this has got to be over. And
Well, what's that? Well, it doesn't change anything. The Sofas are just chowing down right now. Unbelievable. You would never believe that coRe was over 20 villages ahead in this game.
it's just Malians, man. And when they switch into Sofas, this is what you get from them. They're super tanky against ranged, so technically TCs don't do anything against them. Even the archers that coRe has don't do anything against them. And they're not atrociously expensive for a powerful Malian economy, so they can just keep running around in a map like this. Keep hitting those gold miners. We're going to see another instance of that. They're heading south to the gold mine of coRe once again. And now villagers are just running across to try and torch down walls because...
Sir, you seem to be slightly unguarded. And the Sofas know.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, his army all went west. The entire army went west to try and kill those 3 villagers on the barracks.
Because the villagers from coRe on the left side were trapped on this side of the wall. He needed to escort them home.
Hey, look, it's an instant replay of the earlier Sofa dive. Oh, wait, no, it's not. No, we have a reaction. coRe's actually pulling away this time. I mean, if he pulls this off, I don't think so. If he pulls this off, it'd be a miracle. Right? It's double the military count. coRe's kind of scrambling into budget units as well. Archers, spears, crossbows. A lot of Musafadi are coming. Like, so far, he's barely been holding on against just the Sofa. What happens when everyone gets hit?
Nah, it's got to be over. Now he's losing villagers left and right. And things started out well for coRe. He actually got a lot of villager kills. But again, Malian eco is super robust. But it's not just the eco. It was the compositions for a while. Right now, as coRe taps out of this one, coRe doesn't really have a unit that can really make against this combo of javelins, Donsos, and also the Sofas. But especially the javelin throwers. Those are probably the most problematic unit for him to deal with.
Yeah, just a classic build. We don't really see as much from the Malians anymore. You know, with these pro scout builds, fast castles, kind of moved away from mass Donsos and javelins. But just a reminder that they are still kings of feudal if they're able to get that comp online. So game 1 lead for Baltune. You know, in some ways the expected start, as was highlighted, taking 2 games off Marine Lord, no small feat. Barely actually able to get the win in the end. That one, remember, it's 3-2. Also, we have to remember, like, coRe's opening series is a 3-0. You know, I gave him a very generous 3-2 on the predictions. My lean was still Baltune to take this. Honestly, I thought that was based on whether Baltune had actually been practicing enough. But with what we just saw in game 1, It's starting to feel like this could quite easily end up being a 3-0.
All right, we got to talk about this. Now that
What?
we see all the results from the day, where
Mhm.
are we? So Muhoto
Well,
Scarlet Devil. I went Scarlet Devil 3-1, and well, you did not. You were the one that was right. Mio Micah versus Demu. Apparently, I hit the nail on top of its head. Coordinates
mhm.
versus B, and really both of us predicted Baltune versus coRe to be a Baltune win, but you're actually anticipating a lot closer of a series than I did.
Yeah, I'm being generous. It's like, let's extend the show. I mean, in fairness, what's more impressive, like getting 3 out of 4 correct on the exact score or getting 4 right? Like I'm the guy who basically put the answer in the maths test and I was right. That's all that matters. But let's see if we are going to be right. We might both still be wrong. We've got a set still to be resolved. Game number 2 already ready to get underway. We head into 4 legs. Baltune with the English, coRe with something a bit more standard here, Japanese.
They picked something other than the normal European biome, and I love it. We have the little what is this? This is the Mediterranean or like North African style biome.
I think so. Bit of a funny one. I like that though. I kind of feel like we should be using more biomes in tournaments. Spice it up. When are we getting the snow biome?
I actually love biomes being chosen over here, as indeed we saw the draft for a brief moment. To be fair, the craziest thing about biomes is that players have to manually set them. I wish there was like a random biome button, because otherwise
Yeah.
it's difficult to make things consistently happen. Players often just forget about it as they set up the games.
I mean, I want Japanese spring more, man. That's still the prettiest one.
That is such a cool biome.
Hmm. And then we had like, was it the enchanted biome or whatever? I can't remember.
Leave me alone with that.
That one was crazy, man. That was like being in Warcraft. Freaking
Maybe
invading
that
Night
was the
Elf
intent.
territory. Yeah. It's like, hey, we just added Jean to the game. You want to feel a bit Warcrafty? Yeah, I think it adds a bit of character to the maps. It's quite nice to see. The only issue is like, obviously, if you choose a different biome, it does change the way certain maps can spawn. It's a bit funky with the coding. Like, I've had it.
That's a big thing, because at the end of the day, you never want to run into a situation where you pick a biome and you get a glitched map as a consequence.
Yeah, like
Anyway.
look at the spawn here. Like on the mini map, at least, some of these tree lines are donuts, which doesn't happen on European temperate at all, to my understanding.
That's all right. We don't like donuts. Anyway, Baltune going on with the fishing. There is no fishing coming out of coRe, so this is straight rush to feudal age. One thing to highlight is that the players can spawn halfway in between 2 pawns, so there isn't like a necessarily obvious back pawn for each of these players. You kind of have 2 options. One is a little closer than the other. But nevertheless, that dog that Baltune opened with, it's definitely open for harassment with the Shinobi.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're looking for on this map, is you're trying to block on the dock sides. You also can go and delay docks yourself, and the cool thing is you can add the farmhouses in as kind of scouting mechanism for you. Just think about the donuts, by the way. Have you ever realized how much of a scam donuts are? You're
Well, they
paying
kinda are, yes.
for someone to make a hole in them. And then they
That's
sell
true.
it as a separate product.
Fair.
And we pay for that.
But to be fair, there are a lot of products like that. Think about belts.
I mean, that one... Like, I mean, glasses... wait. Glass is a scam. Also, wait, you're going to say belts to me. Would you rather just have a flat piece of leather that you can't wrap around yourself?
I mean, fair point. Anyway, into feudal age we go here, and it's going to be the council hall. 7 villagers being committed to this, so it's pretty clear that Baltune is trying to intercept that early shinobi timing with some longbows.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, the longbow should be the inherent counter. You can actually, like, now counterplay with horsemen into eventual Yumi. One other thing I'm going to point out is the ultimate scam of the donuts isn't... No, it's not. It's the donuts again. We're going back to that. It's not just that they are scamming you by giving you less food. It's then they follow-up scam you, especially if you're American, when you get diabetes and have to pay for your insurance. It's a pyramid scheme, Lidicore. A pyramid scheme spammed full of docks in all your corners.
coRe going very aggro here, and that seems to be the pattern across this series so far. He's definitely trying to get some early aggression going to throw off the builds of the opponent. Double Wolves joining the fun over here. This council hole is going to be finished on time, but it's not going to prevent this Shinobi from trying to torch down this. Oh, that's a beautiful Shunshin.
Nice little snipe. Now Baltune playing blind, which is never a fun experience with Longbow Rush, considering how vulnerable and slow they are. They truly are the old men of my country.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a concern here for Baltune, and he's trying to get a War Galley out, or Hulk, I should say. He's doing that on a sneaky second dock, though, that I don't think this was scouted by coRe up until this very moment. Now he sees it, but I think this is the first time he saw it. And because of this, even if he shuts down the first dock, there is going to be a Hulk coming out. He's actually opening with a galley here, so he's not going to have a direct response.
But he'll still have pressure play here, right? Like, now he can sneak a dock on his own pond, start to get fish. Time being, coRe is just focused on being aggressive, though. Baltune, he should be able to actually snipe out the Shinobi. Yeah, a little bit of a pull away, being slow there. The Shunshin just about gets him out of range. And coRe is... Wait, coRe, no, don't do it. I've seen this too many times. Ah! But I ninja dodged it. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, buddy. We put a GPS tracker on you.
This is okay. Demo coming out here. There is no archer ship just yet for Baltune. Repairs are coming in to try and make sure this is not a one-shot. And that was beautifully executed by Baltune.
Now
he's now in firm control over his pond.
That's a situation where eating the donuts was good. Bulked him up. The Hulk, a little bit too chunky here, means that coRe's put a lot of wasted effort into this pond while getting no economy, right? Like, Baltune is adding in fishing boats. You have to remember this is also a Coca Township play. So it's not like you have that gradual, safe switch into farms as well.
Yeah, this is an expensive endeavor here for coRe. He went into Shinobi. If he no longer uses the Shinobi, as you said, the landmark is almost obsolete. He hasn't had any fishing ecos so far. He lost a demo and a galley on that pond, plus a Shinobi, and he is eventually going to have that dock cleaned up as well. I just feel like, again, it was a very costly endeavor, and it didn't seem to yield a lot of value so far for coRe.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Baltune just has the options on the table, right? You can either go longbow spear here, or you can be greedy with fast castle. I actually like the idea of just pumping out a few longbows and spears. But considering those walls, I think he's going for Call of Duty camper time. Like, we have to remember, we have God vision. We can see that coRe's given up on this. For Baltune, all he knows, there's a bunch more ninjas on the way than no kickboxing.
Yeah, longbows are slowly coming across. Now, individual longbows, they will actually get picked off by the Shinobi like this.
Not if he doesn't attack. That was a misclick. He canceled the animation before it completed. So that...
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, that damage was like suspiciously low. But anyway, individual longbows will get picked by Shinobi, but you're never going to see individual longbows again. I love this from Baltune. The moment he feels like he's in the driver's seat, he's going to wall, and he has done that in the previous game as well. He's a big waller, and I like it a lot. Now he knows that coRe needs to go, because he hasn't had fishing eco for quite some time. coRe needs to make something happen. Now, if you're coRe, you could actually think about just trying to double down on the eco and try to go double docks. I just don't know if there's any good answer here for coRe right now. I think if he's just trying to outboom Baltune, Baltune has such a head start. If he's trying to be aggressive, he's just going to bump into walls with a very, very small army.
Well, the interesting thing is walls are incredibly ineffective against Shinobi, but because coRe is going Horseman, it's going to be decent to stop this. And it looks like Baltune is just going for greed. You can see by the macro, right? This is going to be castle. Interesting choice to go castle. I mean, I think you could have probably ended the game. Right? You just get a bunch of spears and archers going, and then you can essentially camp the docks and snipe with longbows. But this works too, right? It'll be like a classic night pump timing. It's dangerous in some ways, because if coRe mirrors remotely, then Mount Samurai and Onimusha should win.
The walls aren't complete. It's actually somewhat surprising that Baltune is only committing one villager to this. Because if these walls complete, it's going to be so difficult for coRe to do anything in this game. So you would think that there is a bit more commitment from Baltune to finish these walls, just to make sure.
I think it's a case of like you need to know your opponent's actually doing something for you to wall, right? You can argue that you'll eventually want walls because of Mount Samurai, so using 1 or 2 villages not bad. Using like 4, 5, 6 villages, that's the type of reaction you have because, oh my god, they're sending knights. So I kind of see where Baltune's coming from. It's like the horsemen are going to try to poke in here. Might even get himself a villager kill. Yeah, nicely played there. It's awkward because you can't counter early horseman raids with English villagers, right? Because they use the bows instead of shivs. And did he just lose his... Was that a scout? Well, no, he lost that early, so it's just a longbow poking.
Yeah. coRe's got absolutely no land presence right now. He wants to go into Castle Age, but he's not going to beat his opponent in there. Baltune is going to match his Castle Age timing and potentially go up with a second TC here. Now, here's the thing. On a map like this, especially if you have a lot of fishing eco and you have a great source of food, normally the English would consider playing knights, but that's not something that you're going to do against the Japanese. At the same time, this is definitely a map where you can play a slower composition if you're Baltune, simply because the playing field, or at least the area where you're fighting, is kind of condensed.
Yeah, the crazy thing here, good working. I saw you guys slacking. The crazy thing actually is if Baltune went for an all-in feudal, this game would be over. Have a look at the gold spawns, and you might notice a problem for coRe if he gets longbow rushed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe Baltune just felt like, okay, if coRe is rushing Castle Age straight away, then committing to longbows feels like a bad idea. And I would actually agree with that. If you longbow rush here and you bump into Mounted Samurai, you're kind of toast. Now, here's the thing. The walls are complete, but coRe got some docks up on those spawns. So I think if you're coRe, you're actually, first of all, you're going to go relics. But then, transport ship play actually comes in handy. You could actually just try to sneak a couple of those Mounted Samurai into the enemy base.
Look at this, already prepping the Bannerman. It's a nice little cheat sheet to get that first night out. So tech up will complete, Bannerman will spawn, and then you immediately start pumping them out Samurai afterwards. That was a very long wait though. I think he was missing housing there because Bannerman's only 15 seconds to spawn anyway. We have got crossbows coming out, so Baltune is definitely going to take that steady, slow, methodical approach to this. And he shouldn't really feel too contested on the opening, not now that he's got 2 TC.
Now, that's quite a commitment from coRe, and to be fair, coRe expended towards 2 pawns here.
Yeah, but look at what Baltune's
still
doing.
On 1.
No, Baltune's on 3.
Is Baltune... Oh, yeah, well...
He just snuck onto all of them.
I agree with you. I was going to say, in terms of fishing, coRe was on 2 pawns versus 1, but Baltune is doing the right thing now. It's 4 lakes.
He's fishing for kills.
4 lakes.
Yeah, he's got double archership going in the North Pond. He's going to have more coming in the East. This is about to get brutal. coRe's got way too much fishing in these corners.
You got to credit Baltune for changing the pace of the game, though, because really this came out of nowhere here if you're coRe. coRe was like, okay, my opponent is walling up, he's going castle, and the next thing you know, you have not 1, not 2, but basically all 4 sneaky docks out there. You're challenged on the far west pond that you intended to take to potentially aggress the enemy. And then you're challenged on both of your own pawns, so your fishing eco is going to be in shambles.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy the way he executed this, right? Because I talked about the gold as a starvation point, but he just made it about the food. Like, what does coRe now have that he's bogged down in each of these ponds? The only upside he's got is that Baltune is defending that dock he dropped on the east side instead of hitting all the fishing boats hiding in the corner.
And let's not forget, this is a huge thing here. Right now, ecos are neck and neck, but you do have that second town center production potential for Baltune. If you have that, and coRe also loses most of his fishing eco, there's going to be just such a sudden shift in the strength of the economies between the 2 players.
There's also nothing to really stop Baltune from getting back on the west pond. Like, if you look, coRe isn't actually patrolling there. He's just camping the corner. Yeah, so this is just an open goal waiting to be scored. And we got more docks coming over. So yeah, Baltune is going to be able to dominate north and south. And he already has farms coming on land. Meanwhile, the comp he's building is going to be a healthy one. Spears and crossbows, easy thing to buffer away Mounted Samurai with.
Looks like Baltune is also moving out for relics, which is not a thing that should happen under coRe's watch. Baltune should be pinned inside his base here because of all these mounted samurai out there. So coRe, he really needs to secure the majority of the relics over here. If he does, he's gonna be in an okay spot, but coRe really needs at least 4 relics over here. It looks like he's not going to have 5 because there is already one that Baltune picked up.
We do have Warlord coming in. That's at least going to be stopped. So one less relic coming home. I mean, cool. In theory, with the mounted samurai, he should be able to dictate that flow. My worry is, we mentioned the gold, right? Japanese need a lot of gold to function. If Baltune just starts to shuffle out, there's only one real area you want to play towards, right? It is this west side of the map. If you look at the east, it's literally where all the berries are.
Looks like Baltune is breaking out here, but he doesn't have the Network of Castles buff here. Tower is a little late, and I think some of these units, I think the Spearmen might still be Feudal Age units. Mounted Samurai just chewing their way through them, and now the crossbows don't have a front line.
Yeah, this may have been a bit of a mistiming by Baltune, like jumping the gun per se. We do have melee text coming through. coRe is just remaining one-dimensional admittedly. So Baltune, if he just double blobs on spears rather, he should be able to break out here. In the meantime, he actually has got a little bit of poke damage coming through. The biggest issue that coRe has is because the crossbows did survive, burning through these wolves will be way too expensive.
For now, coRe retains at least some of his fishing eco, but Baltune took the northern pond. He is still fishing over there. And coRe could still be challenged on these spawns. He's already down by 17 eco. If he starts losing those fishing boats, he's going to be in a very, very troublesome spot, even with the relics buffing his eco.
So where's coRe's win condition? Because what we're seeing right now is survival, but he's not thriving, right? Like, he split the ponds. He's against 2 TC. He doesn't have his own TC escalation. Imperial's not realistically going to happen here. You could think about transitioning to Yumi. Makes sense to get rid of the spears, and then you can munch down the crossbows. I don't think Mount Samurai long-term is his saving grace in this one. And you can really see by Baltune's economy, it's almost like he's considering slivering his way into Imperial.
I wouldn't hate it. Let's not forget, English do get a lot of benefits from Imperial. Just dropping the Bark Shear to overlook the map. Getting the extra farming buff, the passive gold income. And this is just coRe, he's landing.
Are you kidding me?
But there is a wall out there, but it's not complete.
He's in. Baltune, he doesn't have many spears either. He thought the walls would keep him safe and put everything in the crossbows.
And Baltune read this perfectly. He knew fully well that the landing is going to come from that side. But the wall was just not finished on time, so it's totally worthless. Now, one thing that you could do if you're Baltune is try to sneak and finish it. Because if you do, you could actually clean this horde up. But this is just so much damage done on Baltune. This is the kind of momentum that coRe needed.
Like, you say that, it looks like he's getting ready to leave. So this might not be exactly what coRe needed. He forced a little bit of out of time, but he's still only building into Mounted Samurai. It feels like Baltune was prepping for the next thing with men-at-arms, right? Because usually when you see mass crossbows, as Japanese, you go in a Bigisha. But coRe is just holding firm, right? He must have been inspired by Miyamaika's Game 5 earlier.
I'm surprised that coRe is not challenging the pawn to the north, though. Realistically, he could torch down any dock that's right there. There's nothing that Baltune can do to stop that. I think if you're coRe, you have to challenge that pawn because Baltune has a lot of his fishing eco right there. You could cut into that worker deficit quite well just by hitting that pawn.
I think he's maybe worried about spring ships, demos, right? It can kind of catch you off guard. Also, probably feels like he needs to keep pressure here because if he backs up, remember, his gold isn't safe. He's gathering in the center of the map, pretty naked because unlike all the other civs in the game, bar Mongols, Japanese can't build castles in Castle Age.
He has both of the sacred sites out there, means that the countdown now begins. Of course, it's a long 10-minute period, but it's only 2 sacred sites to hold, and especially if coRe walls these off, they could become a legitimate win condition very soon. If Baltune keeps just sitting at home and potentially bracing for Imperial, things could get interesting with those sacred sites, but first, it's gonna be the Mounted Samurai trying to bash their way through.
I mean, that one low... Wait. That may have been an overreaction. I mean, he obviously can't go in, but he doesn't have to go that far away. So Baltune is going to buy a little bit of time to arrive with the army. But once again, looking for a breach point that leads to some sort of economical advantage. And once again, he's going to be denied.
Resources are starting to run thin inside Baltune's base. So this is not a position that he can sustain for a long time. Again, I feel like coRe is missing on some opportunities, though. There is still a relic out on the map that hasn't been picked up, and more importantly, I think it just hurts him so much that he hasn't tried to challenge that northern pond. He's allowing so much freebie of an economy out there for Baltune to exist, essentially.
Flash is coming in here. The Mount Samurai just need to reach the crossbows. Lines are going to spread out, though, and it looks like can't actually get through quick enough. On the upside is most of this army is in attack buffer, but this is going to be a butchering. It's game 2. Baltune is blitzkrieging his way through the final series of the day.
Wow. I don't know what to think about this series, KP, because there were some really good moments for coRe. I just feel like small things didn't really come together for him. Like that early aggression didn't work out. And then beyond that, he was on a trajectory to recover. But Baltune kind of had his number in most instances, especially expanding towards the other pawns made things a lot more difficult for coRe. That northern pawn never got taken back, and then it was just a one-dimensional composition for coRe, the Mounted Samurai. Really, Baltune knew fully well that Mounted Samurai need to do something in early Castle Age because they actually start falling off once walls are built and once you're looking at a large clump of crossbows and spearmen.
Yeah, they need raid damage. It's the whole point in them, right? They're very hard to address, but as time goes on, when you reach max pop, bit of a weird unit to fight with, especially when you consider the attack speed buff of the English, just gives them the favorability in those later Castle Age engagements. And I think the other thing you have to be aware of is, with this comp mainly being spearmen, only crossbows on the gold side added in, having that second gold vein just beyond the wall means that Baltune can get enough to go Imperial. So for coRe, he has to set the pace. I think really Japanese just have to do that no matter the matchup. It's very rare that Japanese can be overly greedy. Of course, you rush the Castle Age, but you need to do something once you are in Castle Age. You can't just be like English, where you go, I am now Castle Age. I will now go Imperial Age. It doesn't work.
Well, we do have a Lakeside coming up here. First time we're seeing Lakeside today. Remaining 2 maps we've already seen today, Himayama and Dry Arabia. And it's going to be Abbasids versus the Rus here. coRe is down 2-0. If Baltune ends up winning this game, he would be facing off against Kiljari in what would be the Scandinavia showdown tomorrow, I guess. And coRe would be eliminated. So a lot on the line here for both coRe and Baltune. But Baltune, so far, he's looking sharp, and he really is looking like a player that indeed took 2 games off from Marine Lord.
Yeah, and last time Kiljari and Baltune matched up in a top-tier tournament. That would have been on land, King of the North, where it's a 3-0 victory for Kiljari. So could be a bit of revenge story there. But, definitely looking at the way things are squaring off in that group, Kiljari definitely a very big threat. I think he's been leveling up his gameplay. Glad to see Baltune's grinding has been paying off, as leading to what feels like a swift end to the day. Abba versus Rus is an interesting one. Rus don't really need the safe gold because they just get enough passive gold anyway. So the gold being close to the TC doesn't matter for them. What's interesting is with being a defensive map, there might be some potential for Basses to just realize the mid-game potential. It will begin with some water play, where Rus historically have been good for the first 2 minutes. But remember that Abba, they can have this really mean timing by rushing feudal and then dropping docks just to get the boats out, because you can double dock drop rather, because it only costs 75 wood each.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. It's actually a classic matchup as well. Just to go back a couple of years now, I wanted to say months, but then I'm realizing that we've been doing this for quite some time, KP.
It's been too long.
Yeah, Rus versus Abbasids was such a classic matchup for a long time. There was an era where Abbasid 2, 3 TC builds were dominating the ladder. And then, Roots came in and they had this whole full archer ram style push. And I always called that the Abbasid killer. It was a build that the Abbasids simply didn't have an answer to. And every time you went into a game on Lipany whatsoever, one player brought in the Abbasids, and then the other one just went with the Rus. It was such a classic matchup. I actually wonder if we're going to see something similar to that, because generally speaking, Abbasids are somewhat susceptible to early mid-feudal age pushes. And so far, coRe has been very aggressive in each of the games he's played. So I wonder if he's going to try some timing-based push here.
I mean, it's a bit tricky, I think, right? Like nowadays, anyway, Golden Age gets done very cleanly. Fresh foodstuffs actually being doable without compromising your economy. Then you've got military wing into boot camp. Add the 15% gathering rate. Add in the fact you got 10% more health. Realistically, in Archer Blob, Abba should win. I also think that the issue here is that even if you want to do that old school type of build, you're on a water map, right? The water is irresistible. You'd think just having one tiny fish would be so little no one would care about water. The meta is locked in and people most definitely care about water, as I think we're about to see in game number 3.
Into Lakeside we go. Baltune versus coRe. Baltune up 2-0 here. He's one game away from facing Killjardy in the deciders tomorrow to get a chance to qualify to the playoffs from Group A. So far, we've seen an aggressive coRe in both the games, but the early aggression didn't always come together. It did yield some results in game number 1, but coRe wasn't able to finish that game, and then game number 2, the early aggression on 4 lakes just didn't come together for coRe.
Well, we have the ambush strat. The whole idea is like you might be able to hide your dock so your opponent doesn't even know you're on water with this play. Unfortunately, it never really works out that way because the scouts always run by. The other trade-off is obviously coRe doesn't have to run as far with his villager to the north side compared to Baltune, who already has gone for that dock drop on the bond.
Yeah, there's not much fish to really utilize on this map, but it still results in the players doing some level of docking here. This villager is actually the one that coRe has. It's going to have to walk quite a bit towards that shoreline fish. But I think what's going to be more interesting here is the distribution between the commitments to land and water. Because this is not a map where you can just say, okay, this is going to be full-on water fighting and we're just going to muscle it out and whoever wins is going to have a huge fishing eco and win the game. The players are very much exposed on land. And again, there is a limited value in fishing. So we might actually see a lot more focus from the players on land. Whichever way, the distribution of your resources between the water and land is going to be key to this game.
Well, Baltune, I'm wondering... There used to be a cool build to block water aggro, which is the culture wing play. I don't think it's really worth it on this particular map, but that would give you like a fast castle timing, which isn't necessarily the worst idea, knowing that Roos will likely want to rush castle, right? Like, there's some matchups where you think, oh, Roos want to add knights. Reality is, in the current meta, horse archers are too good to resist. On this map, it is very hard to dive with horse archers, but you already see by the center of the map, you don't really need to go in the enemy base. Most games on this map are actually decided by sacred sites.
That's a pretty substantial sheep haul for coRe. I just wanted to say that. Like,
I want you
he was able to secure the majority of the sheep out there. I wonder how Baltune is doing in that regard.
I mean, I want you to do a prediction here, by the way. How many minutes in the game do you think before coRe touches gold?
6, 7?
16.
Nah, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Lidicor, I say this with the utmost respect. I have watched many more games than you this year. Too many games of Roos. And if you saw what I have seen, you would not think the Civ is reasonable. They don't touch gold, right? Like, because all they want to do is rush castle. And Golden Gate, with a like double hunting cabin opening, gives you everything you need. You don't care for it. Now, admittedly, we're on water, so there's maybe a small potential for that. He hasn't gone hunting cabins, but that's like a byproduct of it being water, right? I think if coRe sees what's happening on the other side, he'll probably open Archer ship and then just shrug away from water entirely.
Second dock coming in here for Baltune. I don't know if Baltune actually spotted the dock here from coRe. Did he? I don't think he did.
He did.
Okay, yeah, now he knows. But he just now spotted this.
Yeah, but he went double dock, right? So he's always ready for a fight. Because like I said, that people tried to ignore the water at first on this map, but you just can't. It's such a good advantage. It's hard
KP, hello.
to ignore.
Hello,
Yep.
did I say 6 minutes or did I say 16? No, we gotta go back to that gold mine.
All right, well,
How
you
was
know
that
what?
about watching a lot of games?
He's a rookie mistake here. No double hunting cabin, no greed. So he's gonna play feudal against Abba.
Yeah, I was wondering if coRe will think about knights here. Because one of the things that you can do on a hybrid map like this is get 1 or 2 knights out just to start harassing the opponent and slow down their resource influx, and that's going to impact their commitments to water as well.
The problem with knights here is if you click on the TC, you'll see how hard it is to make knights work. The range on the town center protects the gold. And the other thing is, like, the moment you see your opponent's going to go raiding, all you have to do is wall that backside. I think Lakeside is way too defensively favorable of a map still.
Yeah, this is a huge commitment here from Baltune to the water. 1 of each ship. Scout goes down for a course, so he's going to be totally blind now. He's going to try to play into demos here. He doesn't have a Hawk, or, well, the Springle ship equivalent out there. He's just not getting that in. This is going to be a bit tricky, but then again, it looks like Baltune might be heading towards that alleged fishing spot. coRe pulled away from that area, so he's not looking for a fight just yet.
Yeah,
I'm always heading out there.
It's a cool concept what he's done here, by the way. Like, Roos is unique on this map. Like, everyone else sacrifices deep water fish. You don't, but that's a big sacrifice. I guess he shouldn't have went on the gold.
All right. That was an experience. How do we wrap this series, KP? What do we say about this?
Hashtag forming gold mine gathering not worth. I've already put in the chat. That's the pasta. I mean, it's just, I think Roos just don't really look competitive on water. I've talked to some of the top pros about this. Like, it's almost it's a residual effect of what they used to be good at, right? If you can't win, the reason why you call GG so quickly, if you can't win that initial exchange of boats, why did you even pick it on water? That is the reality check with Roos, and he completely lost the opening exchange.
Yeah, it really felt like everything fell apart in terms of the build, and just looking back at the first 2 games, it really felt like coRe was trying to build his strategy around early aggression, and that just didn't come together for this water map in particular. He lost the scout, and then he just lost that demo out there. And I think at that point he knew, okay, he's going to be short-handed on the water fight. He was also 1 dock against 2. So what is he going to do? Any kind of a pivot into land-based warfare is just going to take too much time, and it would just completely shatter that game plan of trying to be aggressive and winning games quickly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we've seen why Baltune was able to take 2 games off of Marine Lord, and he really looks like a contender in here, I gotta say this. Clean 3-0. He's going to face Killjoy tomorrow, and that's going to be a banger, actually.